The ritardando, or the retard, or the RIT, I guess is what it's most commonly referred to as. As you guys know, a RIT is just a gradual decrease in tempo, typically at the end of a song. But there's a lot of RIT endings, big RIT endings that happen in worship music because they're big and they're majestic and dynamic, and it's just an effective way to end a powerful song. Now, whether it's through lack of experience or miscommunication on stage or just a weak drummer with poor timing, there's always the potential for big RIT endings to sort of fall apart. A reason for that, of course, is you have 5 people in the band, 6 people in the band, maybe even 12 musicians on the stage, like who knows, depending on the size of the church. And they're all trying to follow you, right? They're all trying to catch these big hits as things are gradually slowing down. So if you're not playing that ending with a certain amount of authority, there's a potential for that ending to sort of fall flat. Big RIT endings need to be played with confidence. You want to be able to sort of gear down confidently, you know what I mean, while at the same time, making sure that everybody else is still on the bus. So this video is to just give you a couple of ideas, a couple of pointers on how you can approach playing big RIT endings and make sure that everything stays tight and that everybody in the band is with you, so that's a big, effective ending. Now, as worship drummers in general, it's completely okay and actually quite important for us to sort of recognize and assume a leadership role while we're on the platform. Like, whether anybody else on the stage knows it or not, we do carry a certain amount of authority on the stage, especially when it comes to dynamics. There's a lot of things that we can do on the drums that can kind of direct what happens dynamically on the stage. And when you're approaching big RIT endings, the same thing applies. So you just have to know how to approach those situations the right way to make sure that it stays effective and everything stays tight and everything just sounds good. Now, in these instances where you're playing these big RIT endings, you have to sort of stop thinking like a drummer and start thinking more like a director. For that last 2 bars or 3 bars or however long that RIT is going to be, you can assume the role as director. So whenever I'm in a situation, whether it's at the church that I play at or whether I'm a guest musician at another church, at the rehearsal, I always try to sort of, it's okay for me to step in for just a couple of minutes and just kind of take a little bit of control of that situation. And I always suggest that, once we get to the end of that phrase and the big RIT starts, I always suggest, look, everybody just watch me. As long as everyone watches me, this thing's going to stay tight and it's going to sound great. So don't be afraid to do that. You can do that without stepping on anybody's toes. Just make the suggestion that everyone watch you, okay, during that big ending, and it'll always be effective as long as you do it the right way. Now, there's 2 different approaches to playing these types of endings. There's a musical one and there's a physical one, like visual. Now, for these types of endings to be effective, eye contact is a huge thing. So the more people you got looking at you, while you're hitting that ending, the much greater potential there is for it to stay tight like it should. So the physical approach to playing these big RIT endings is big, exaggerated movements when you go to play these hits. As long as people can see that, then they're going to hit them with you. The musical approach is equally as important. Because this is going to be a large part of how you direct what's happening during that big RIT. So what I like to do, whenever I'm playing these types of endings in that last couple of bars, is I always subdivide the ending. So the slower the RIT gets towards the end, the more subdivision I add to what's happening. So if we're counting the last two bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, bang, all right? During that last two bars, as things start to slow down, I'm going to start to subdivide what I'm doing on here a little bit more. So I'll go from, 1 to some quarters, to eighths, to 16, blah, blah, bang. Now the exaggerated movement that I was talking about earlier, that happens particularly on that last hit. If you're making nice big movements before you hit that last shot, everybody's going to see it and everybody's going to catch it. So I'm going to keep my dynamics way up here, and I'm going to use the toms, I'm going to use the cymbals, whatever, but I'm going to play those subdivisions as things start to slow down, because whoever can't see you on the stage is going to be able to hear you. And that is just what's going to help them stay on track, and they're going to catch whatever hit you throw in there, because they're going to be able to count what's going on inside those big spaces. If you don't play anything inside those big spaces during the RIT, then they're kind of almost sort of guessing where the hits are, and then that's when things can start to get a little bit shaky. But if you just take that one little step, man, and start to subdivide a little bit more as things start to slow down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, bang. There's no way they're going to miss that. Now at the end of that big RIT, another thing that can happen, of course, is that there's going to be one last shot. So you end the tune, and then everybody holds on one note, right? And you hold it out, fill, and then boom, one last shot. The whole visual thing that I was talking about before, that's really important here as well. And that's what's going to make sure that everybody hits that last shot nice and tight as well. So you end off, hit that last shot at the end of the RIT, hold it out. I mean, you can swell on the cymbals if you want. You can do some tom stuff or whatever. But then you need to set up that last shot. You can do that however you want. If you want some tips on how to play big trash can endings, you can check out this video here. That'll give you some pointers on what you can actually play on the toms if you want to do that kind of thing. But at the end of that, everybody's got that last shot to hit. So the visual aspect of it is what you want to be able to emphasize. Now there's two different ways, of course, that you can do that. A lot of times I'll hit two cymbals at the same time. Another thing that I like to do is I'll do a double hit. So, fill, brrr, flap, bang, bang, that kind of thing. Now the important thing to keep in mind is that the band is going to follow the hand that comes down from the highest point. Keep this in mind, okay? If you're going to do a double hit, and you're going to go bang, bang, they're going to hit that first one, and then the second one you're going to be hitting by yourself. You don't want that to happen, all right? So whenever I do double hits, and I suggest this to you, separate them. Hit your first one from here and your last one from up here. That way, they're going to ignore this first hit, and everybody's going to land on the second one. So there you go. Just a couple of suggestions on how you can play those big RIT endings. Don't be a timid worship drummer, all right? Timid worship drummers are not effective. So you want to be able to have some confidence while you're up there doing your thing. If you play with confidence, the rest of the band will hopefully play with the same level of confidence, and everything will just sound better up there. If you lead, they will follow. Trust me on this. All right? Anyways, that's it for this video, man. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support this channel on Patreon, click that link below. And yeah, that's all I got for today. Like, subscribe. See you next video.